hundreds of years before Jesus was born. Before Bethlehem, before the cross, before the resurrection, ancient prophets wrote astonishing predictions about a coming Savior. They described a child born in a specific town, a suffering servant rejected by humanity, a man whose hands and feet would be pierced, all written centuries before Jesus walked the earth. How could these prophets know? Coincidence or divine prophecy? Today we explore some of the most powerful messianic prophecies in the Bible and how Christians believe they were fulfilled in the life of Jesus Christ. The Old Testament contains many passages that point toward a future Messiah. The word Messiah means anointed one. The Jewish people believed God would send a chosen leader who would bring salvation and restore his people. These predictions were written hundreds of years before Jesus was born. Christians believe Jesus fulfilled many of these prophecies in remarkable detail. Let's examine some of the most striking examples. One prophecy gives a very specific detail about where the Messiah would be born. But you, Bethlehem Ephratah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel. This prophecy was written around 700 years before Jesus. It predicts that the Messiah would come from the small town of Bethlehem. At the time, Bethlehem was an insignificant village. Yet according to the New Testament, Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea. Even though Mary and Joseph originally lived in Nazareth, a Roman census forced them to travel to Bethlehem, exactly where the prophecy said the Messiah would be born. One of the most famous messianic prophecies appears in Isaiah 53. This chapter describes a mysterious figure as the suffering servant. It was written about 700 years before the time of Jesus. Listen to some of these descriptions. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. According to the Gospels, Jesus was rejected by many people, including religious leaders. Isaiah continues, "But he was pierced for our transgressions. The punishment that brought us peace was on him." Christians believe this prophecy points directly to the crucifixion of Jesus. Jesus was pierced by nails during his execution on the cross. Isaiah also says, "He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth." During his trial, Jesus remained mostly silent before his accusers. This prophecy is considered one of the clearest descriptions of the Messiah's suffering. Another powerful prophecy appears in Psalm 22, written by King David about 1,000 years before Jesus. The psalm begins with a cry that Jesus later spoke on the cross. My God, why have you forsaken me?" According to the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus spoke these exact words during his crucifixion. But the prophecy continues with even more striking details. "They pierced my hands and my feet." This description is remarkable because crucifixion had not yet been invented when David wrote this psalm. Yet it perfectly describes the method of execution by the Romans centuries later. The psalm even describes soldiers dividing garments. "They divide my clothes among them and cast lots for my garment." The Gospels report that Roman soldiers did exactly this at Jesus' crucifixion. Another prophecy describes the Messiah entering Jerusalem in a very specific way. "See, your king comes to you, gentle and riding on a donkey." Hundreds of years later, Jesus entered Jerusalem riding on a donkey. This event became known as Palm Sunday, when crowds welcomed him as the promised king. Some scholars have studied the statistical probability of one person fulfilling multiple ancient prophecies. Mathematician Peter Stoner once calculated the probability of just 8 prophecies being fulfilled by one person. His result was astonishing.